Well, Sid Abel, we have seen the Detroit Red Wings, the 1979-80 edition, for 40 minutes thus.
A taste of wine, women, and suspense.
Thunder. Then we realized he couldn't put...
It's hard to believe that another summer has rolled by so quickly, but that it has. And again, we welcome you to another season of Detroit Red Wing hockey. It was just a year ago that we were saying the very same thing. We were looking forward to what we hoped was going to be a good season for the Detroit Red Wings, but it just didn't turn out that way. Detroit faltered rather badly through portions of the season. This year, well, I, for one, am just a little bit optimistic. The Wings have a little more solid club, and if you had an opportunity to watch them as camp, as I did a few times, they have a great attitude among the players and the coaches and their general manager. It should be a fun season. The league itself has a new look. They have some new faces. They have some old ones that are gone. And we have 4 brand new teams in the National Hockey League, so let's take a moment or two right now just to see what's in store for hockey fans this season. The Wings, of course, will remain in the Norris division, the division which still will be hard-pressed to catch the Montreal Canadiens, even with the absence of the retired goaltender Kenny Dryden, with the absence of Jacques Lemaire, who's gone on to Europe to play his hockey there, and, of course, Scotty Bowman, who deserted the coaching ranks at Montreal to head for Buffalo, leaving the job there to Bernie Geoffrion. The Los Angeles Kings, as we've been watching tonight, even more of a rival for the Detroit Red Wings, with the former wing Andre Saint-Laurent joining Marcel Dion in the lineup. The Pittsburgh Penguins will remain tough, and it'll be fun to watch Nick Libet in the new uniform there. And Hartford a part of the picture now, and this is going to be interesting for Detroit Red Wing hockey fans, as well as myself and Sid and all the rest of us around the picture, to see the Howe family in the National Hockey League for the first time. Mark Howe has been a perennial challenger for the scoring lead of the World Hockey Association, and his brother Marty has been a regular hard-nosed defenseman. And whether or not he plays, Papa Gordy is going to be welcomed to any place he goes, anywhere in hockey, including the National Hockey League again. It's going to be interesting to see how these former WHA players and teams will fare against the National Hockey League competition. And we have the Adams division, where the Boston Bruins have been the champions the last couple of seasons. They'll try again this year, but they'll have to do it without their coach, Don Cherry, who moved on to Colorado to be replaced by Freddie Creighton, who was fired as the Atlanta coach at the end of last season. If anything should be against the Boston Bruins' chances to repeat, it might be the fact that age-wise, they're the oldest in the entire National Hockey League. Buffalo is going to be interesting this season, of course, with the new leadership under the former Montreal coach, as we mentioned, Scotty Bowman. The Minnesota North Stars had the most improved record in the National Hockey League last season, and over the summer they didn't do anything to hurt themselves, so they could be tough. Punch Imlach is the new general manager, and Floyd Smith, the new coach with the Toronto Maple Leafs, so it's another whole new regime there, and if Mike Palmateer keeps playing goal as well as he did a season ago, well, then the Leafs are going to stay tough. And another new club to the National Hockey League, we talk about the Quebec Nordiques. Now, this is a pretty good hockey team with players the caliber of Mark Tardif, of Robbie Fatorik, who was with the Red Wings some seasons ago, Jerry Hart, who went on from the New York Islanders, and Réal Cloutier. He's called Buddy, and he's a good one. This fellow Cloutier led the World Hockey Association in scoring last year with a total of 129 points, 75 goals, 54 assists, and that's a pretty good record in anybody's league. You put him on the same team with Fatorik, and you have the league's 2 top scorers from a season ago. So we have the Norris and the Adams division for this season. We still have another 11 teams to take a look at, and we'll be doing that in just a moment. And so we have 21 teams in the National Hockey League this season. Every team to play every other one 4 times, twice at home and twice away. And when the regular season is all over, 16 of the 21 teams are going to make the playoffs. Only 5 will be eliminated, those 5 with the least number of points at the end of the regular season. So there'll be some narrowing down before the Stanley Cup playoffs really get underway. Let's go back to the divisions and talk about the Patrick. This is the only division without a new team this year. The Philadelphia Flyers, they may not be the power of old, but they still have a fellow named Bobby Clark, and he's proven to be one of the great leaders in the game of hockey today. The New York Islanders, you still have to consider them tough for the likes of Brian Trottier, of Mike Bossy, Clark Gillies. A lot of folks say they may be the new champions. and the Rangers under Fred Sherrill. They could be even better than the team that gave the Montreal Canadiens so much trouble in the playoffs last season. The Atlanta Flames, they have a new coach in Al McNeil, and they remain one of the more physical teams in the National Hockey League today. And the Washington Capitals, who have moved from the Norris Division to the much tougher Patrick Division, the Caps will have trouble moving up in this division against the likes of the Islanders, the Rangers, the Flyers, and the Flames, but they could well make the playoffs. Then we have the Smythe Division, where maybe Washington should have gone. This is the weakest of the four divisions. Teams like Vancouver, the Canucks may be some improved, but they're not likely to beat out the Chicago Blackhawks. The Hawks with a new coach in Eddie Johnston, they should win their division very easily. The St. Louis Blues, they had their problems last season, and if Gary Unger leaves them, they may have a way to go yet to improve themselves to becoming a contender of any sort. Maybe one of the most interesting franchises, I guess the most interesting in the National Hockey League this season to me, is going to be the Colorado Rockies. They've had problems at the gate. They've threatened to leave Denver to go to the east, the New York area. But when they hired Don Cherry as their new coach in the offseason, ticket sales went up immediately, and so have the hopes of the Rockies. They've had a young defenseman added to their roster, too, in the draft. His name is Robert Ramage, and he's supposed to be a great one. He was the #1 pick in the draft this year. And we have two new teams, Edmonton and Winnipeg. Edmonton was the best team in the World Hockey Association last year. Their #1 hero is an 18-year-old youngster. His name is Wayne Gretzky. This kid last year finished third in overall scoring of the entire World Hockey Association with 46 goals and 64 assists. He's a youngster with a great deal of poise, and as an underage draft, he proved himself in the World Hockey Association. It's going to be interesting to see how he handles himself in the National Hockey League. He's a pretty good example of a very young Edmonton team. And the other WHA entry, also in the Smythe Division, the Winnipeg Jets. A new coach, Tom McVie. He is not a stranger to the National Hockey League. He coached a while for Washington. Winnipeg will not be a pushover, and one of the reasons is a fellow named Morris Lukowich. Here's a young guy who scored 65 goals and added 34 assists last year for the Jets. That was 6th best in the entire World Hockey Association. Lukowich, along with Peter Marsh, Peter Sullivan, Willie Lindstrom, will be the scoring threats for this club. They'll be joining what looks to be a pretty physical bunch put together by General Manager John Ferguson. And so we will be looking this season at 21 teams. There will be surprises, there will be good moments, there will be disappointments for some of them along the way. It's going to be an interesting season. I know it's going to be an exciting one, and I hope that you'll plan to be with us just as often as you possibly can.
Well, according to my little TikTok here, in about 10 minutes, it's going to be 1 o'clock back in the Michigan area. I hope we still have you with us. And we've watched 40 minutes of a pretty good hockey game, considering it's the first 40 minutes that either of these two teams have played in the regular season this year. And Sid, it has not been what I could call a real physical sort of a game.
Well, there have been spots, Bruce, where they've run one another into the boards. But I think the Wings let up a little as far as the actual body or getting their bodies out in front of players. And you've got to be so careful with Goring and with Dion and Taylor and Big Charlie Simmer that unless you check them, they get the puck in over the blue line, move in deep, and they take advantage of their point men. They get it back out to the point, and the Wings start to just seem to get confused and start running around. But for 40 minutes, I think the Wings have played an excellent hockey game. This is a building, Bruce, that they haven't played well in the last few years. So let's just hope they can put something together now for 20 minutes and come out with a tie or a win.
I remember, Sid, that when Los Angeles and Oakland first came into the National Hockey League, and you were a definite part of the league at that particular time, it seemed to be the feeling among folks in the powers to be that you really should get out here 3-4 days ahead of a game so that you could acclimate yourself to the time difference, the weather difference, and what have you. That philosophy has changed considerably. The Red Wings came in last night, didn't leave Detroit until 5:30 in the afternoon, so really I know that I went to bed last night about 9 o'clock Los Angeles time, which is midnight back in Detroit. And then, and then wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, which is generally 7, so it's kind of tough.
It is. It's a different type of living out here. You get out and look at your watch, and it says 11:15, and you figure, boy, it's time to go to bed. But it's only 8:15 here, and if you stay till 11:15 or 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock, then it is awful late in Detroit. So you just have to get your own system accustomed to it. And it's surprising that the players can do as well as they do. This morning, I come over with the team when they had their skate, Bruce, And, boy, I never saw the Wings skate better, and I was hoping that they didn't leave it on the ice at noon, that they would save it for tonight. But it appears, though, we're going to have a real good third period and hopefully a good outcome here.
Well, it's a 2-2 tie at the end of 2 periods, and we're going to be back with the third period action in just a moment. Our guests receive a gift from Magnavox, manufacturers of the finest in electronics and cabinet styling. Each guest receives a certificate for a 12-inch black and white Magnavox television. And so in that second period, Los Angeles outshot the Red Wings 14-8. But the two teams each scored a goal, and as we get ready for third period action, it remains a 2-2 tie. The Red Wings have had a total of 5 penalties, all minors. Los Angeles has had 3.